Something I didn't know is tornadoes, on a very frequent basis, their engines need complete overhauls. And we've literally got engines day in, day out, kind of cycling backwards and forwards to the Gulf. Now, it used to take them weeks to service one jet engine for a tornado, and they can now do this in hours through a very straightforward lean production and engineering environment. The police. So I've talked about kind of back office functions, I've talked about service, I've talked about engineering. So the police, frontline public service. This is quite a good example of where an organisation haven't taken kind of a straightforward lean approach, but they've taken principles from the lean approach and adapted it to their own environment. So this particular project was called Operation Quest. Now, I don't know if anyone's here from the police force, but anything they do in the police force tends to be called Operation. Hello back there. You'll back me up on that one. The strapline, your time better used. This is about empowering staff to better use their time. This particular example was how a police force, they identified that their sergeants were spending over half their time sitting at desks, managing queues of incoming 999 calls to hit performance targets. Now, the chief constable down in Sussex, where this was, his priority for his sergeants was developing his officers and attending priority incidents. He didn't want them sat at desks. Now, through introducing a scheduling system for their less urgent calls, so kind of smoothing demand and kind of lean terms for people, they've actually managed to stop this. And in terms of the queues that they used to have, queues of people waiting, kind of 80 people at any one time, that doesn't exist anymore. So, the police. So, some learning from across government. Having been on this whistle-stop tour with some kind of improvement leads from different areas of government, we sat together for an afternoon and said, what have we learnt from all of this? I just want to share some of these messages. So firstly, it works. So better for customers, better for staff, more cost effective. Now, I'm not saying it's guaranteed to work. What we've learnt is it's hard, it takes commitment and it takes time. But if you make that investment and you have the right skills, the right resources, and also the right leadership commitment, critically the right leadership commitment, it can work. Now, we've seen, in terms of types of benefit, two types. So a step change, where processes are radically reformed and changed, but also continuous improvement, where staff teams continually work away at the way they manage their processes for improvement. Leadership is required. Now, if you're in a management situation and you want to introduce lean, this isn't something wonderful that maybe your staff can go off and do. It takes 100% commitment from those required, both in words but also in behaviours about how you manage this through an organisation. The management culture I've seen in lean and continuous improvement organisations is very different. Staff lead improvement initiatives and they are supported by their managers. It really does turn the management model on its head, so it is quite different. It is all about people. It's about respecting your people. It's about respecting their experience and about giving them the opportunity to take control of their work and to improve their work. It's not a quick fix. I've seen examples of lean used to reduce cost quickly from an organisation and being closely associated with that cost-cutting exercise. And actually, those programmes have suffered a number of setbacks because actually they disengage the very people that you need to make them work. Now, the message for me here is very clear. The cuts are going to happen. Budgets are going to be reduced. Now, this is an opportunity for public sector staff to take control of this situation and to work out, to be empowered to work out how they're going to provide their service in that new environment. I think there is something quite unique about the public sector and staff's engagement in the service they provide and their commitment to their customers or service users, patients that they serve. And I think that is why this approach has particular relevance to the public sector and is a particular opportunity for us. And this is really about tapping into that. Commit, invest and see through. You can't undertake this lightly. Done properly, as for HMRC, this has become an all-encompassing journey for that organisation. From the top to the bottom, how they manage every day is through this approach. It's not just a change programme in the longer term. Build your capability. Thank you. Build your capability. Where I've seen these programmes working, they've built their own internal teams, they've trained their own internal people, and they've driven these programmes from within. Now, I think it's significant that up in NICO, where they've been doing this for 5 years now, they still have a team of 40 change agents working full-time on this. And those change agents give a return on investment year on year for that organisation, and they are not disinvesting in that team after 4 years. Adapt, don't adopt. I've seen examples of people often have consultants to help them start this early on. People will kind of arrive with a toolkit. Toolkits generically applied to organisations will often give you problems. You have to go on your own learning journey with this and to understand how this kind of suite of improvement approaches, how they'll fit to your organisation. And there may be kind of different elements you focus on early on. You might not go for the whole suite from day one. So how do you adapt to your organisation? Visual management. Across almost all the organisations I've visited, this, as part of an improvement approach, is a tool that seems to consistently work really well. As a manager, you might get your monthly performance reports. People have monthly performance reports, green and red boxes, yes and no, doing well, not doing so well. See a few nods. Well, when I was a manager, my performance report used to come in once a month, and it used to be discussed for an hour and then go in my drawer. Now, in terms of that as a resource for the staff that worked for me, that was absolutely no use at all. Management information is for staff to help them manage their workflow, to manage their processes, to manage the jobs that are going on. If you get visual management boards, performance boards, you give staff control of that information which will help them do their jobs, then that information will really start working for you rather than it being this kind of rather retrospective and perhaps ineffective kind of stick that you look at the end of each month. Okay, so there are some lessons from, as I said, a group of us that have been working in this field for some time and that spent some time going across government. So the role of the centre of government now in driving this forward. So the National Audit Office are conducting a process management maturity assessment, their term, not mine, and they're going out into government departments and they're giving kind of an objective assessment of how far you're on with this approach. And I think that's really important for us because I recognise that this is a journey and people are at different stages on that journey, and I think that assessment will help people. Now, the Cabinet Office Efficiency and Reform Group, so this is a brand new group. The Permanent Secretary Ian Watmore arrived on 1st of September. They're still establishing exactly what their work streams are going to be and how they're going to engage with departments. But in terms of continuous improvement, ERG are absolutely very interested in this approach and the benefits from this approach. The early thinking on this is that the Cabinet Office will act in a facilitation role. So actually, we've got defined centres of excellence already across government, some of which I've talked about today. And the Cabinet Office can act as a facilitator and as a broker in terms of how we get that skill and that experience and that learning that we have in certain parts of government across the whole field. So something I mentioned earlier, continuous improvement partnership. This should be interesting, perhaps for some of you. We're going to be conducting a number of visits across the country, so rather than the small number of those accessing this learning, that actually being spread out much more widely. So do get in touch with me personally if you're interested in that, in learning from other parts of the public sector.